What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we had a couple of questions on the last videos asking about my user interface. So if you're a new player to Elder Scrolls and your UI looks something like this, and you're curious about how you can make it look something more like this is the video for you. Consider dropping a like on this video and subscribing if you're new. Let's talk about my user interface add-ons, man. So you've seen the before and after, and I've already gotten this question on another video, which was pretty cool. And if you're wondering why the colors pop so much, it's because we are absolutely using a Reshade. And I won't go too in depth on the installation process, but just to know that this is Plashenko Reshade, linked in the description. And we actually don't have everything enabled. We're only using a couple of different things here, and I've tweaked a few settings. And the LUT we're using is PSK Fantasy. There's a couple of ones you could choose from, but that's the one I landed on. And LUT Chroma Amount and LUT Luma Amount were the values that I tweaked for this Reshade, and it is enough to give the game just a little bit more pop without being too oversaturated, but there's tons of Reshades to choose from. This is the one I'm going with. I love this thing, dude. It's pretty nice. And again, you can tell the difference when you toggle it on and off. The difference is it's night and day. It just adds another layer to your gameplay, and the game looks beautiful, man. So we've talked about colors, and the disclaimer for this video is that we're using an add-on manager called Minion to get this done, and it makes things very easy in that it updates, installs, and manages all of your add-ons across the board. And I don't have the time or the energy to be doing this myself with every single patch that hits this game, so shout out to the guys that deal with add-ons. I don't deserve you. And if you guys want to peek into what Minion actually looks like, I'll link it in the description. We won't have an installation guide here because there's tons online, but it just gives you a catalog of all the add-ons that you have installed, and you could find just about anything. So this is what we're using to get my add-ons and install them. So the add-on I want to start out with for my user interface is one that's doing most of the heavy lifting for me. And there's a couple of different options for you guys, but the one that I landed on was LUI Extended. And I won't go too much into the settings just to give you a peek of what I'm using and the modules that I have. So I am really only using unit frames as well as buffs and debuffs. It's pretty simple. And buffs and debuffs pretty much speak for themselves. So if we unlock those windows, you can see there's a lot going on here, but I'm only really using this for player buffs and debuffs as well as the target buffs and debuffs. So if we come back in here, turn that off, and we buff up a little bit, you can see that my buffs and my debuffs rest nicely on my health bar. And it's nice and centered screen in a nice column. So if you're playing a DPS, most of the time you guys are going to be glued to your skills anyway. So having everything centralized, I find is preferred for me, which is pretty nice. Unit frames there's a bit to talk about here. I want to start off by saying I do have some default ones on. So default player and target is on, so do nothing by default. Group frame is off because we are using a custom one with LUI, and the default boss frame is do nothing, so that's on by default too. So reposition default target frames is pretty important because it's going to give us that nice pyramid layout, keeping everything centralized as well, like I said before. So aligning with the theme of being center screen if you're DPS is pretty important for us. The custom frames that I'm using are group. So if you take a peek at these settings, screenshot them if you want, as well as raid. And the one that I want to point out with raid is the raid frame layout of 4x6. So it's going to make 4 columns of 6 by max. So as you know, if you're doing trials, it's a max of 12 players. So you're going to have 2 columns of 6. And it's just a nice way to gauge how many people you need to still recruit for a trial by how many people are left in each column. So if you have 2 full columns, that's 6 people each, good to go, and you can get on with the trial, which is cool. And also with LUI Extended, the color options are pretty sweet too. You can pretty much color code anything. So if we're looking at our party menu, I've color coded my DPS a bit of a tan, healers are purple, and tanks are red. So Bear, thank you for helping me with this. I'm on my DPS, I'm a tan color. Bear is on his tank, so he's red. But it gives you a quick glimpse of character name, CP, class, and the role that you're dealing with here. It's a nice way to get a glimpse of what you're walking into if you're queuing for a random normal or a pug without having to come into here and just dig through everything too. So LUI Extended, pretty powerful tool, pretty modern, pretty clean. So a question I got asked quite a bit on a few of my videos now is why does my skill menu look like this? Why is it so clean? How did this happen? And it's an add-on called Perfect Pixel. So please pick up Perfect Pixel. It's essentially going to take any one of your menus that involves you doing a lot of scrolling and essentially put it in this big box for you to see at face value. So this is my main character, and I'm a member of a lot of different guilds. It's my crafter, world skills are here, a lot of different skill lines, and I'd be scrolling for forever trying to find what I want without Perfect Pixel. With this add-on, it just places everything listed for me in a nice view where I just have it all. I don't have to scroll for hours and hours to try to find something, and that does expand towards your quest as well. your character sheet too. It's a nice, clean, modern UI setting. It does expand to your bags too, but I do not use the perfect pixel bag setting because I'd be scrolling for an hour and a half just to find anything. Now there is a filter here that you could add as a different add-on, but I'd be here for quite a bit. So to get around that, I do have Gridlist enabled, and that's essentially going to take the itemized list from Perfect Pixel and make a grid list for me. It's going to condense things a little bit closer together, and it's going to organize them by icon, which is nice. Just so I don't have to dig for stuff over and over and over again, because, you know, if your main character has max inventory slots, you're hauling around quite a bit of items and potions and things like that. So as soon as we get back in here, I'll show you. It goes from that previous list to this list, and it's a significant decrease in scrolling for me. So I could see everything in my inventory just by scrolling. And you know, I know this is difficult for new players because you're not necessarily going to know the names of some of these items, but there are filters that you could still use. And if I still want to search for witch mothers, I could search for witch mothers, or I could go to consumables and it'll be here too. So there are ways of finding what you're looking for without actually looking at the names, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult for newer players if you don't know, for example, that this is a Rewards of the Worthy, or if this is a Sororia's necklace, for example. But again, minimizes the scrolling that I have to do, and I can find my items a little bit more easier with Gridlist. So another add-on for my user interface that complements LUI and Perfect Pixel very well. It's a very simple one that's actually kind of overlooked. It's called DarkUI. And what it really does, once you choose your color theme, we're going with dark, of course, it's going to apply that theme to the borders of your elements of your UI. So things like your attribute bars have this nice black border around them, your skills, we're going to be looking at PvP rank and your experience bar. It just modernizes your UI and adds that extra element to it that if you circle back to the beginning clip in this video, you can notice when it's not on and it doesn't look very pretty. So apply dark UI, get a modern UI with some darkened edges. It looks great. I love this add-on too. Something minor that's not necessary, but I personally do enjoy, is this info bar at the top, which gives you a quick glimpse of things like currency, especially that I don't have to go digging into my inventory to deal with and track down. So honestly, LUI Extended does have an info panel, but I prefer this one over that one. It's literally just called Info Panel by Hoft, and you can turn on a bunch of different things like bag space, soul gems, repair kits, the time, stable info, transmutes, undaunted keys, event tickets. There's a bunch of info here that you can really turn on at your leisure, and I'm waiting for an update to have it include maybe some endeavors, for example. That would be a really nice addition with this patch, but for now, it's just a quick glimpse of my transmute stones and my undaunted keys, especially event tickets during Mid-Year Mayhem. It's really nice. Bag space too. It's a quick add-on. I would encourage everybody to get it, and it's nice because it'll drop your compass down just a little bit and everything down with it as well. I think this goes without saying, and we take advantage of this on PC quite a bit because it's not available on console. My Minimap, man. Minimap is something that I love so much, and I can't imagine not having this. And Votan's Minimap is the map that I use, so if you guys want to take a peek at some of these settings, it's a nice, clean way to customize your Minimap. And again, if you're on console and you're thinking about switching to PC, the add-ons are such a huge game changer, and just having this map that you could put just about anywhere on your screen, putting it in a nice clean spot, gives you the name of where you are. It's nice to have. I couldn't imagine playing Elder Scrolls without it, so I would highly recommend Votan's Minimap for sure. Two more add-ons that I use that are on my UI. I use them every single time I play Elder Scrolls are going to be combat metrics as well as pChat. So without going too into detail on the settings themselves, pChat allows complete customization over your chat boxes. You can literally customize just about anything in each of these tabs. You can add new tabs if you'd like. It's really, really great, honestly. I love it a lot. And CMX is essentially your DPS meter. So it has different modes for a quick glance of damage done, healing done, damage received. After every encounter, you can type /CMX into the chat box and pull up a log of the fight itself. As you can see, I haven't been in combat, so there's a lot of missing data here. But two more add-ons that are literally on my UI. I use them every single time I play this game. Super helpful. Please grab both of these as well. So I jumped onto my PvP character because I want to show you guys another add-on that I use specifically for PvP, and that's more buff tracking with Surrender. So you could see if I unlock the window, there's a bunch of different places where these buffs could track, and you can move them wherever you want. But I'm only using, as you could see here, I'm only using window 2 for specifically short buffs and my weapon enchant procs, because again, there's a lot of buffs in PvP, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I just want to be aware of the important things. So my focus is going to proc there, my full momentum CC immunity is going to proc there, my weapon enchant buffs are going to proc in that spot. As you can see, if I use my my ritual, that's actually not showing up in the list here, but it does track on the bottom. So in PvP, there's a lot of stuff going on the bottom here, and just to get a quick glimpse of the thing that's most important to me is nice to have, but completely subjective. But again, still part of the PvP UI that I thought was worth mentioning. So another add-on that I use that I tend to use more for PvP over PvE, but you could certainly use it for PvE if you want. It's called Greyskull, and it's essentially going to list your weapon or spell damage depending upon if you're mag or stam DPS on your UI for you to see. You change the background color and how big it is, and it essentially looks like this, and it's on my my Magplar right next to my ultimate. And what it does, it'll update in real time based on your buffs, what bar you're on. So when you're ready for that PvP burst window, you don't have to wait for your buffs or keep track of them on your stat sheets, for example. It's just a nice quick indicator of how much power you have and when you're ready to use your burst window. And again, I find it useful for PvP, but again, guys, feel free to use it in PvE too. I just have it on all my characters across the board, and it's nice to have. So the last add-on we're going to talk about today is one that's going to wrap all of these together into a nice package. So let's say you downloaded the other add-ons and you want to find a way to tweak them and bring your UI together. It's going to be Azurah. So if you unlock the UI windows, you can see there's a lot going on here, but you could essentially move just about everything wherever you want and customize this literally to a T. And if you're a UI snob, you could literally get pretty creative with this. You could save your changes, you can undo them if you don't want them. But I found the most use for this when we're talking about action duration reminder, which is another add-on that I actually am not covering in this video. It's for skills. And if you're not using action duration reminder, you can be using the updated skill cooldown system that they implemented with Blackwood. But it essentially adds this extra bar, really, to your skills, so you can keep track of the cooldown timers and such. And on default UIs, your health bar and your magicka bar, your stamina bar are going to be in the way. They're going to be down farther. They're going to be in the way of this bar here. So how do we mitigate that? How do we fix that? So let's get these ticking, right? Let's go back into Azurah. You can move your health, stamina, magicka up to make room for this action duration reminder bar if you're using action duration reminder. And this is just one example of the ways you can move these. And you could, like I said, you can get pretty creative with this and move just about whatever you want. But that's what I did to make way for some other add-ons that were conflicting with some of these other ones too. So it's very powerful. I encourage everybody to grab this one too. It just brings everything together into a nice package. And make sure you clean it up too, otherwise you end up looking like something like this. But it's very powerful. Encourage you guys to grab it. Fellas, that's going to wrap it up for this video. This was all completely subjective, but this is my UI. I'm super proud of it. Worked hard on it, man. Took a little bit to get to this point. If you guys have any other recommendations on user interface add-ons, please drop them below. And if you want to join the Discord to join a community of people to play Elder Scrolls with, click the link in the description. I would love to have you guys there. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next video.